Racing the clock. Okay, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Governance and Policy Committee meeting for January 13th. Meeting is called to order at 6:06. In attendance, we are Chris Vallon. Anyone?
Trustee Ashley Pineda.
Oh. Dr. Iverson, Superintendent.
And Tracy Mears is muted. And Steve.
Sorry, Tracy Mears, Board of Education President.
Okay, thank you. I know that there are multiple meetings going on tonight, so I'm going to speak quickly and hopefully move through this and be done in record time within half an hour. I'm going to go ahead and move the agenda around a little bit, if that's okay, so we get the meat of the matter done first. And I'm going to jump to the policy review. We're creating the new policy for the new student member of the Board of Education. How do I find this? So just to have a reference here. Okay, let's see. Sorry, still stuff. That's me sharing my screen.
Okay.
So just for, these are the minutes that we'll do later. Agenda. So just for reference, this is the text of the law again on how we're supposed to choose our student or select the student member. We had a brief discussion last time, agreed to go back to the high school building personnel to see what their suggestions would be.
Right.
Mr. Smith, I had a brief conversation with Mr. Smith. He spoke to staff in his building and they came back with a proposal. And I typed up a little bitty summary, which that's not it, untitled, which is basically this. He suggests that the Board of Education works with the high school student council to select a student representative for the Board of Education, the ex officio student member. He says students interested in meeting the criteria, which we discussed at our last meeting and got the consensus of the full board, should submit their names to be then elected by the general student body. So that was what Mr. Smith emailed. And then I tried to clarify a few points with him since he has another meeting tonight and could not attend this committee. We discussed the time frame, which is something that this committee hasn't really discussed in detail. I was working off of another policy, I'll find it in a minute if we need it, of another school district where they appointed their ex officio student member at the July reorganizational meeting. So if we could have a brief discussion on the time frame when we foresee appointing that member each year. Would it be at the July reorg, or would we possibly wait until after student government elections in the fall? Any opinions, comments?
So I have a suggestion. In my mind, I guess the way I thought this would work is the student government needs time, right? So they're gonna do their thing, they're gonna elect who the representatives are. Then they're gonna need some time to settle into their roles and get into the swing of things, right? And part of our initial thought process was, let's not make this a burden for whoever volunteers to do this. So in my mind, it might make more sense to have the student council give us that information around this time in January. And that's when we actually appoint the board member. That's what I was thinking. That way it gives everyone time to adapt and to figure out who wants to put in the time commitment.
So do you foresee then, so because the student board member needs to be a senior, you would then wait until after student government elections, which can happen anywhere between October and December, and then that newly formed government selecting someone for now, and then this person being put in place would only serve through June?
Correct. In my mind, that's how it would work, but I'm always open to other ideas.
Yeah, I was actually considering the year before, because the part of the law is that the student has to be a student for more than 2 years. So if they had to be a student of Woodlands as a junior, and they know that they may want to do this in their senior year, to me, it's more sensible to have the junior class actually elect someone, express their, interest, maybe this time of year, maybe, moving further on. I'd have to look at the schedule of exams and stuff that the kids take, maybe pick a time of the year where they're not stressed out with planning and exams or college, preparing to take the SATs or ACTs, and have maybe that month do elections of the juniors for who's interested in their senior position. And then they start, in July. I think it's fair to have that student voice for the full year. And they go once a month, right? They're only coming to one meeting per month. So that's what, in my mind, it would work, but I'm open to ideas.
Mr. Smith did ask for clarification on how often the student would be participating, and I relayed our discussion of requesting at least once per month. Probably at the meeting when we do our presentations. Of course, that can change each year, but that's the idea of what we discussed. That wouldn't bar the student from participating more often if they were available or if we requested, I guess. And to your point, Tracy, about the timing, Mr. Smith was saying May is, if we were to do it for July, he said May is a good time because it is in between different exam periods. And there is concern on my part as someone who's now in that college search process that the fall for a senior is insane. So that's just me speaking as a parent and looking ahead a little. You're on mute, Tracy.
Sorry, I was trying to get clarity. So you're saying the fall for a senior is insane to run for the position, or is insane to be on the board coming to meetings?
No, I'm just saying there's a lot going on. And the fact that the student election, the extracurriculars don't really start until October, depending on the year, sometimes even a little later. So there is that delay in getting student government up and running.
So what are you saying? So you're saying this. So what are you saying? I'm trying to get clear. So are you saying you like that they are elected before their senior year begins? If we would start start July, as a member, or are you saying they shouldn't start until October, November? Like what?
I feel like both parties would get the most benefit out of having a student member if they're chosen sooner rather than later, since they have to be a senior. So to get the benefit of their opinions and their insights in the fall, we really need to begin the process, I think, in the spring for the current juniors, who will then be the eligible seniors as of July. Really, they move up. Dr. Iverson, did you have any on this?
I would like to see the student participate the full year of their senior year, because they're representatives to the board and they're seniors. So we wait and they really just have from the middle of the half a semester. I mean, we've lost all that perspective from them as from the senior as they're experiencing it, the months that they're doing all this voting and all. So I agree that it would be ideal to have this person ready to go, be and participate in our board meetings as of the beginning of the year. And that would be a senior. I like he has here, they're going to work with the student council to inform the juniors during their junior year of this opportunity. Maybe they should capitalize on that time and get that and have the juniors elect who they want to represent them as seniors then. And this person could be in place by the first board meeting of the school year. I mean, I wonder, is there something about their guidelines of student council that they have to wait till that student council is formed in September to start this process? I don't know either why we couldn't start it, have the junior class do that mid-March. I mean, towards the end of the spring so that they're ready in the fall. I prefer that too, Trustee Valen. I hear what you said too, Trustee Maris. I like the junior participation because at the end of the day, they're all going to be seniors next year.
And that's the criteria, isn't it? That they have to be they have to be here. It's not like a transfer, a new senior can do this.
Correct. They have to have been a member of the school community for 2 years
Yes.
prior to serving, and they need to be a senior, which I don't think I put that part here. The
No, I agree.
Okay, so we have alignment. We'll follow that process. That's
okay.
fine.
And then just to follow on again with Mr. Smith's suggestion, again, working with the student council, to what you were saying, Dr. Iverson, he's seeing that the current student council, which is led by a senior and that team, would inform the current juniors. But he alluded to the fact that the entire student body would be voting on this, since it's not just a representative of the current senior class, this ex officio member. They're really a representative of all the students, even though they're required to be a senior. So he mentioned the fact that they would help inform and organize that election, but that representative would be chosen by the entire student body rather than just that that rising senior class. I don't know what the others on the call think as far as which of the students would do the selecting in that election.
Yeah.
Anyone have any thoughts on that particular aspect?
I just wonder I love the idea of everyone being involved, but I wonder if the 9th and 10th graders would know, and if this is going to be a voting process, will be able to vote on for a senior that they may not know.
He suggested that either the candidates who would, they would self-select, then the administration would make sure there are students of good standing as per the criteria we outlined. He suggested that either they could do some speeches at a lunchtime or create videos that could be presented either during lunchtime or in social studies class.
I like that.
To that team and kind of did it as part of a social studies government.
I was going to say, for me, and being a parent there and knowing and going, I went to Woodlands as well. It's not a big school. So actually a lot of the children do know each other from sometimes joining clubs or, definitely by 9th grade, because they're there from 7th grade. If it's people who have been there for 2 years, the 9th graders usually know the seniors. And even if it's a senior that maybe is not well known, socially, but is involved in other things. And if they do, as you said, like a type of campaign situation, and if you make it civically involved and they discuss it in the social studies class, I think that is an excellent idea to have the full body involved, because then also those 9th and 10th graders are looking forward to 2 and 3 years later where they can run and possibly serve on the Board of Ed. Then they're learning what the Board of Education is. Right? They're getting involved in voting. We did voter drives before where we had our 18-year-olds register to vote for elections locally and nationally. So this is a way to definitely beef up civic involvement. So I love it.
When you think of it like that, I do like that idea.
Mr. Ashley, did you have any thoughts?
No, I think you guys pretty much covered what I was going to think of saying. The only other thing is timing wise, is the idea then that when the student council runs their elections shortly after that, at some point they would run a separate election for this. Okay. Or would they try to slipstream in and put it all together into one? I mean, those are things that I guess they'll have to consider and figure out what makes the most sense.
Yeah, we didn't specifically discuss that. I imagine, so here, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but I imagine that they would just run the regular student council elections done in the normal extracurricular year. I misworded that, but that it would still run along the normal timeline of October through June, and that would be a separate election once everyone's back in the fall. Mm-hmm. But I'm not trying to put words in anyone's mouth. This is just my hypothesis.
So what does that mean for us for this year? Do we not have one? Do we want to do something impromptu and have, I guess this could be a trial run if we wanted to get some. I would love to have that input. I just don't know if there's enough time and with everything else going on, if we can pull that off. But I would love to get the input of a student sooner rather than later.
Also, if he's saying a late May, so I wonder if we could kind of, I mean, our budget and trustee vote is actually mid-May, right? It's usually in the teens. I wonder if there's a way simultaneously with our budget vote, the school can do a student Board of Ed vote.
That's
and
a great.
have, yeah, and so it's now January. I mean, I guess I don't know the time for, they would have to explain to us, or I don't know, Chris, you have an 11th grader, but the time frames between February, March, and April to campaign or do, like you said, Ashley, a trial run, and then have a May vote, whether that same week or even during the day of our Board of Ed vote. We take over the gym, but maybe in the school, the kids, they can even vote electronically, the way everything is remote now sometimes.
You mentioned something about something on Google Classroom that would facilitate the student vote. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm just going to probably skip someone's turn here. If we nail down how we want to do it for next year forward, which it sounds like we're going to have that process for the first official election be the spring. If it sounds like we're kind of agreeing, we have a consensus on how we want it to move going forward. Ashley, to your point, as far as having someone right now, I did touch on that with Mr. Smith. I did not put that in writing. So the summary of our conversation is if this committee had a consensus that we wanted to put someone in place for the remainder of this year, this process might be a little onerous for this one-time special exception. So if we on this committee agreed to kind of abbreviate that process for this one time, we suggested that we discussed just going to the current student council, current student government members, and having them self-select within their group. So it's still a choice of the students, albeit a certain, albeit through the representatives of the students within themselves. But
a great idea to me.
Anyone have any other suggestions or?
Nope. The only thing I would say is that we be very, just direct, like what is in it for me? Like why would a student want to be on the Board of Ed? Because everyone doesn't think the same way. And maybe just be very clear that you'll get to learn the workings of the school district. Looks good on your, college resume, a very direct and honest way in which we can advertise this for get good student buy-in and input.
Yeah,
this is Mr. Smith's words that I want to type there.
Right, because a student might think right away, oh, it just looks like a lot of long meetings, which it is. But they might, why would I want to do something like that? This, actually highlight the reasons why it may be beneficial to be involved in this way.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So if we wanted to, going back to Ashley's point about putting someone in place isn't the right way to put it, but invite someone to participate this year. And it sounds like there's consensus to have the student government self-select right this year. What time frame are we asking them to begin? What kind of, what is our ask?
Yeah.
As soon as they can.
I was going to say, as quickly as they can, put a process in place to select this person. So, I mean, hopefully February, by at the latest March meeting.
Okay. Okay.
At
So
the same
we'll follow
time,
up on that. Yep.
as simultaneously getting ready for the May election of a current junior, right?
Yep. Okay. So I will email that to Mr. Smith and he can get in touch with the student government advisors and get that rolling.
Yeah.
So I guess I know we've got meetings starting in a few minutes. So as far as process, do we have an official recommendation for the board on, or should I type up an official recommendation based on our conversation that we will have the students selected, the student government or student council help or inform and organize student elections to be selected from the entire student body?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, that's,
okay. So
yeah, I agree.
official, I move, I second.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I move that you
That
write
whole-
that letter exactly how you said.
Yeah.
Do
I think
we-
it's on playback.
So I now have a question, which would not be, and I know we're out of time, but would not be trustee Valen or myself or trustee Washington. But do we want to have a trustee actually like talk to the student council or the student government and explain some of what we do? Maybe it could be, I'm trying to remember who it's myself and Tanya are the Dragic, who are the trustee liaisons for Woodlands. Maybe trustee Dragic wants to talk to the student government and kind of say, hey, I'm a trustee, you may know, definitely not myself or Chris Fallon or Kiana Washington, because we're parents, our kids would be mortified, but maybe have her come and say hello and say I'm a school board trustee and this is what we do and this is why we do what we do, and we would love to have one of you volunteer. That might be good as well.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Okay, so when I contact Mr. Smith, I can tell him that it would be great if the liaison were, yes, I'll communicate that. And then hopefully the student government advisor would arrange a time for that chat to happen. I know those meetings are usually held right after school. I'm not sure if they're virtual right now or not. So I'll communicate that. And it's 6:28. Some of you have meetings starting at 6:30. Tracy, before you go, let's just have a motion to approve the minutes as I emailed.
Yes, and they looked great. So moved.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Minutes approved. And I think we'll just abbreviate everything else until the next meeting, unless people want to keep going after Tracy jumps off. Dr. Arbison, I think you may or may not have another meeting later.
No, I don't. I thought this meeting was going to be longer. That's why I spoke to trustee Mayers.
So I'm sorry, Dr. Iverson, I was scheduling that leadership meeting, not realizing there's an IB meeting for the high school at 6:30, which I have to go to. So that's why I'm running. I would have ended up having to do something between that and the leadership meeting. So
I was
I'm
wondering what meeting, because I knew, okay.
So you guys can stay. I will excuse myself.
So
Thank you.
we'll see you tomorrow for leadership.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all
Okay,
right.
good night, everyone.
Good night.
Aye.
Right. But we can make a decision ourselves. The only two other items I had on the agenda were just a finalization of the observation form we discussed last time with the full board and at our retreat. And I don't know if we need to officially make this recommendation to have it finally get to the board for use.
We should.
Ashley, did you have-
Yeah, we should definitely recommend it. And then for something like this that's not as urgent, you may want to send it to the district clerk and ask her to ensure it's a part of the board packet. That way the board members can get their eyes on it, right, as part of the packet. And then you can obviously talk about it a little bit more when you give your report at our next meeting, but they've already had an opportunity to see it. So that might trigger any kind of questions or dialogue that's necessary.
Okay, thank you for that suggestion.
Sure.
Okay, and again, since I removed a lot of stuff, the only other thing was to discuss whether or not we're going to have a February retreat. It's already, our next meeting of this committee is, I think, February 10th or 11th, somewhere thereabouts. So I think that's a discussion that we actually need to have with our board president online. So maybe, maybe I'll put the bug in her ear, Dr. Iverson, for you to
Okay.
discuss at your upcoming leadership meeting.
Okay, tomorrow, sure, I'll add it.
I'm
Are
not
you on
sure-
that, are you on that call tomorrow as well?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if, we briefly discussed the need to have one to begin kind of a self-evaluation process. So I would see that as the focus of that retreat if we were to have that. Ashley, did you have anything else to suggest about a possible retreat or that even the need for one?
Typically we only do 2 a year, but this is different, right? We're rebuilding a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts.
Mhm.
I don't think it would hurt, especially just because, we've been using the tool that I suspect we'll continue to use it. But, it doesn't hurt to look at the tools and make sure there's nothing better out there. I mean, it can't hurt.
Okay, maybe I'll share that in the board packet as well. So people who haven't had a chance to look at it can do so. Okay, I'll put that in packet. Okay. So is there any other new business that anyone wants to cover? Our scintillating committee here, of policy and governance. Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Okay, second, aye. All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, well, thank you. Thank you for listening to my speed talking, and have a good night.
Yes. Have a good one. See you and talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, Mr. Lewis. Good night.